welcome to this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and joining us in studio, a return engagement, Michelle Hantman, the President and CEO of the United Way of Greater New Bedford. It's good seeing you.
Good to see you.
The last time we saw you was right at the start of the pandemic, some 16, 17 months ago.
Yes, I know. Time flies.
What a difference 17 months can be, and what have you.
Yes.
We wanted to talk about the Hunger Commission, but before we get to that, I just wanted to sort of get an overview as to how you guys are making out with the pandemic and what your services and stuff are doing right now.
So I can definitely touch on a couple of key highlights. I think we can certainly say that while things are not over, the height of everything, I think, has certainly subsided. The Help United COVID Response Fund that we had helped over 250 households. We covered, I think it was something like, I wish I had those notes with me, but 40-something mortgage payments, 200 and something months of rent.
Wow.
We helped people with some other miscellaneous needs like childcare and some other bills. We also, the food piece was significant, and it's probably a good lead-in into what we're going to focus on today, but record numbers in the amount of food that we were able to get and then redistribute to our partners. I think our key point was 1.3 million pounds of food. So insane numbers.
It seems to me like all the issues you had were on steroids over the last
That's a really great way to put it.
17 months. I
Yes.
mean, you have your, I don't want to say normal year, but you have a year that you plan for.
Yep. And then everything just cranked
And then
up.
the issues, they're not going away. They're just, they're on steroids is the only thing I can think of, and it just exacerbates everything for you.
It did, but I will tell you that I think what was really amazing to see was that people wanted to help, people wanted to give, people wanted to volunteer, even though they weren't really able to do it in the most traditional ways.
Well, you said that last time, is that you had to change all your volunteer strategy because you couldn't have the contact.
We did. But on the generosity side, support came in, and we were not one of the only organizations to benefit. You know, a lot of organizations in the local nonprofit sector that were being responsive, that were stepping up in new and innovative ways to be out there, pounding the pavement, supporting people that needed it. We had lots of people that wanted to support us to be able to do that work. So foundations, companies that gave in new ways, gave additionally, gave over and above what they already do. That is what really made it happen. And then the outpouring of support that we got from people just like you and me that wanted to help. And it might have been $5, it might have been $500. We had people that were giving for the first time what they could because they wanted to be part of it. So while I think it was scary, it was intimidating at times, it was also kind of amazing and really awesome to see people be supportive, be helpful, and be philanthropic in new ways.
Before we get to the Hunger Commission stuff that I know we want to transition to, I'm wondering, as you've gone through this year and a half that we've had to go through, obviously you did things differently. Are there some things that you liked organizationally that you did differently that you like, because you had to think outside the box, organizations, are you looking saying, okay, we're going to keep this now, or some things that we can't keep?
I think we're still trying to figure that out, and it's funny, I feel that we are still in this figuring thing out mode, experimenting, waiting and seeing. What I feel is still happening, certainly in our traditional day-to-day work, is things are more delayed, right? So with United Way, we do rely a lot on the support of our corporate partners to open up the doors, to allow us to come in to talk about United Way, because so many of our supporters are giving through their workplace, through the campaign, through payroll deduction. And not having the ability to do that in the traditional sense, because some companies still don't have policy, they still have COVID policies in place where they're not inviting people to come in from the outside. That is something that I certainly would like to see change, because not being able to really tell our story and get in front of people is challenging.
Right, the one-on-one is huge, especially in your job. And it's funny because I know talking to the state reps when we do the show every month, they say one of the things that they miss is the one-on-ones with their colleagues in the State House, which is still closed.
Of course.
And it makes a huge difference doing your job.
Yes. So as far as the team is concerned, we've been, some of our program folks never stopped, right? Because if their work was on the road or on the street or in the field, they couldn't stop. So even though some of the administrative folks, people that were more in the office, raising the dollars, doing the marketing, that sort of stuff, some people could work from home, some people really couldn't, right? So we had people that never stopped doing what they did. The admin team has been back to the office pretty much since March, and everybody has fully been back to the office since July. So we're pretty much day-to-day business as usual, and that feels really good, because I definitely think that in person, that connection to your colleagues, to your partners, having the ability to interact without the screen all the time is really refreshing. And I think we all learned that, even for the people that aren't the most social people, you know me very well, you know I am one of those social people. However, I know that people who aren't so social, they started to feel, it's isolating. And teams thrive with that happening in person. There's only so much you can accomplish, I think, behind a screen or on the phone. So I am thrilled to be able to say that 100% of our organization is back to work in the traditional sense. There are still some things that we are playing by ear, or we at the last minute are having to make accommodations to go hybrid, so a virtual format and an in-person format to a meeting or to a program. We're taking everything on a case-by-case basis. And
that's what you got to do too.
It's what you got to do.
So as we head toward the holiday season now, wanted to talk a little about the Hunger Commission. You were talking briefly about it before. Again, I can't imagine. I've seen the news stories, read the news stories, and that the need is still great. And I'm not saying specifically New Bedford, just everywhere. But the other challenge you're having right now is the food supplies are low because they're just stuck because of shipping issues. First, talk about the need aspect of it. What are you seeing right now?
So, excuse me. We are hearing that, we're fortunate that a lot of our pantries in this community, and really across the state, truly rely on the Greater Boston Food Bank. Excuse me. So the Greater Boston Food Bank is doing a tremendous job and has always done a tremendous job. I think just like us and other organizations that were absolutely needing to be in the thick of it, had to really step up in new ways. They are absolutely needing the credit because what they did was phenomenal throughout the pandemic. And so I know that they are doing their best to make sure that they are getting what pantries need to those pantries and to the communities across the Commonwealth that they serve. However, each pantry, they also have their own clientele, right? So if a pantry is in a particular part of the city, they might have a clientele that is a higher ethnicity of X category versus Y category. So when they're stocking their shelves, they're being mindful of having food supply that is not just the general food supply, which we will talk about today, but also trying to tailor it to the needs of their clients, right? And I think sometimes that's where there is a little bit of people are getting stuck because they're just getting what they can get. And they are doing the best they can. While organizations rely on the food bank, they rely on the Hunger Commission, they're also doing their own grassroots efforts to raise money, raise food to be able to meet the needs. But we hear inconsistent things, and it kind of just depends on so many factors. The hours of operation that a pantry is open, the community that they're serving, or their primary populations. It's pretty inconsistent, but what we are hearing consistently is that the need is high.
And I don't think people realize too that they do take into consideration the community that they serve.
That's right.
The food that they offer.
That's right. I think our nonprofit sector does a tremendous job in being culturally competent, and that is part of what it means to be a strong health and human service organization. It's knowing your target audience, it's knowing your populations, and making sure that that's reflective in the team that you have serving the clients, as well as the offerings that you have for them, whether that be programmatic through language or that be through food that you're providing.
The one thing, matter of fact, I heard a piece this morning on the news that was saying that they're still getting food, but it's not as much food now. Again, I think the story came out of, it wasn't in Massachusetts, but it was someplace in the country. So they're stretching as much as they can. And I have seen, like, the Greater Boston Food Bank has actually added volunteers, more people, kind of what you were saying locally here, that they got help, which was great. And
the help is great because that's how this all works.
Right.
Most organizations that are in the nonprofit world have limited capacity as far as their staff, limited budgets. and could never do everything that they do if it wasn't for being able to grow that capacity through volunteer service.
I don't think people actually, too, when they look at your job from your standpoint, some people might say, well, why is she concerned about the shipping issues? But this is something that impacts you.
There's a trickle effect to everything.
Exactly.
Right?
And this must really be a concern right now because it's leading newscasts and it's on the front page of the papers.
Right. There was an article recently, I think, in our local newspaper saying that they were anticipating a shortage of turkey supply.
Yes.
So let me tell you what we did about that, because we've been talking a lot over the past several years about whether or not we should continue doing the turkey piece of our Thanksgiving distribution, because we were hearing from some of our pantry clients that depending on the size of a family or the ethnicity of a family, a turkey that's about 12, 14 pounds may not be the ideal thing to give them, right? So this year we did make a big decision to change that. And because United Way also grants dollars to nonprofit agencies, we changed it so that we are still giving them the Thanksgiving fixings that we are able to assemble and provide through our Hunger Heroes event.
Right.
But then they can apply to us for funding to be able to ask for the dollars that they need to cover however they want to cover their client need for Thanksgiving. So if that means they want to hand a gift card to their client to be able to use it how they see fit, great. If they want to buy the turkeys themselves to be able to add that to the offering that we give them, great. But again, we're putting it back on the agency that knows their clients really well and to be able to handle it to best suit the needs of their clients.
And as you said, I mean, the needs are up. And I would assume at this time of year, we've talked about it all the time, this time of year it's even more prevalent.
It is,
during the
always.
holidays. Yeah.
And there's good and bad to that. So let me tell you what I mean by that. I think it's heightened because there's a spotlight on the holidays, right? And part of the good that comes with holiday efforts is that people are feeling more giving.
Right.
They want to give more. They want to serve more. They want to, drop something in the can outside the grocery store. They are looking for ways to contribute because we're in this kind of mood of giving, right? What tends to happen, though, is February can become very desolate for a lot of the organizations that are in food security because now things get quiet. People are not feeling as generous. They're getting their bills from the holidays,
yes,
right?
exactly.
We all feel that. And now it's like this reprieve, but what that means is that generosity doesn't really pour in like it just did. And so that's something that we're also mindful of, is maybe sometimes what we're able to do is do targeted drives so that we are making sure that, okay, pantries, you're saying you are expecting a dearth of this.
Right.
We're going to make sure that we get everything that we can to meet that need, and specifically think about that for February and March.
Oh, it's year round.
Yeah.
And we've talked about in the summertime. I mean, when the kids are out of school,
Yes.
there's even a greater need because they don't have that breakfast and lunch
Yep.
in many cases that they usually have that the schools provide.
Yeah, that's right. So this past April, we did our first ever Spring Hunger Heroes event. And what we did was the week before April vacation, we partnered with schools in our service area to get these packages that our volunteers put together with kid-friendly food and snacks. So things that a child could even, add the water to the mac and cheese and pop in the microwave, or have healthy snacks like granola bars, things of that nature, because we do know that households that are food insecure, vacations are not always a really good week for those kids. So kind of being proactive and thinking creatively about what we could do, and that's something that we plan to make an annual effort now.
And it's interesting too. I mean, you talk mac and cheese, you talk the granola bars.
Yep.
I mean, it's the non-perishable foods that are so important.
Yep.
It's the milk is something, the eggs are something else. But if what kid doesn't like mac and cheese?
That's right. I haven't met one yet.
Exactly.
I think my child had that for dinner last night.
So, but I mean, that's the kind of things that when you go to these food drives.
Yes.
And you're thinking, what can I give?
Yes.
Those are the things that you can give.
Yes. And so here's what I will say. We've gotten much more specific, and I know that probably irks some people, because I know that people sometimes just want to look through their cupboard and look at what isn't moving. Oh, my kid doesn't like this anymore, or this is about to expire.
The olives?
The olives, the random beans, who knows, right? We get a lot of
I've seen
random
those.
stuff. However, in recent years, we've been much more prescriptive, much more directive in our collection efforts, because we also want to be thinking about things that are not only shelf stable, but are a little bit more nutritionally dense. So yes, mac and cheese is always a fabulous staple to think about donating. Pasta, always think about the packaging of things too. So glass is not recommended because of, it comes to, say, a donation bin or to the Hunger Commission, transported to a pantry to the person. There's a lot of room there for that to break and be messy and potentially dangerous. Cereals, hot, cold cereals, that's a great item to think about contributing. Peanut butter, while there are peanut allergies, and when pantries are giving out, they're always mindful of that.
Right.
Peanut butter is a fabulous shelf-stable. A lot of children like it, and it has protein in it. So that's always, and it's expensive. So that's something that people, should always think about when they're looking to maybe purchase things to contribute. That's a great one. Baked beans. Also think about low sodium stuff. So if you're reaching for that canned veggie or you're reaching for those baked beans, think about the sodium levels of stuff. There's always the low salt, low sodium, no salt added options.
I would assume the soups are good too.
Soups are good. Again, the sodium piece, just being mindful of that.
But that, like you said, a lot of that stuff is you're just adding water.
That's right. And sometimes you're not even adding water, right? A can of soup, you're just popping it up and heating it up.
And that's in some cases that's a good meal.
Yes. It can be hearty, it can be filling, it can have nutrition to it. There are also shelf-stable, you can have shelf-stable milk, right? You can buy boxed milk. You can also get canned tuna, canned chicken, canned salmon, things like that, nutritionally dense and a protein. Those are all really good items that pantries year-round need, want, and have no issues giving out.
So there's a lot. I mean, you just roll through a dozen things that really, and it's funny. I mean, you can still get soup pretty cheap, or you can still get mac and cheese. I mean, you can go in the store and get 3 for $2 right now.
That's right.
That's probably a couple meals right there. So that helps.
Yes.
Helps a lot. What are folks doing as far as when they want the food? They just obviously contact you or contact the local pantries, correct?
So it's a little bit of both. We do get those calls. We do get the calls. We try our best to refer whoever's on the other end of that call to the organization that might be the best fit for them. We're fortunate that in an area like New Bedford, we have lots of nonprofits that are serving people, but some of them they specialize in certain populations and in certain situations. So we always do our best to try to align that to a person's needs. We have for years sponsored that street sheet. Are you familiar with the street sheet?
Yep.
So the street sheet is interesting. It's this pamphlet that is used not only by people that might receive it, by a counselor or caseworker, pick it up at the library or at another venue, and they can use it as a tool to figure out where can I get a meal, where can I go get a bag of food, what pantries are open on what day. It's also used a great deal by local counselors and local nonprofits that are also looking to, I have a person in front of me, I know we do this, but where else can they go and get this? Pantries can be kind of quirky with their schedules, so people always have to be mindful of there isn't necessarily a pantry open all day, every day.
Correct, yeah.
So there's kind of a method to that. So that street sheet or our website is a great way to find
It has a lot of information.
It has
on
a lot.
your website.
Sometimes I think it's overwhelming, right? A lot of information, and a lot of times the focus of what we're doing with the Hunger Commission is we are giving it to the pantries, to soup kitchens, to shelters that are already working with clients or qualifying clients to be the frontline recipients.
So as we talk about this, a good segue is, it's the holiday season too.
Yes.
And you guys do a lot of things, not just the Hunger Commission, but through the holiday season as well.
Yes.
Again, it's such a busy time. You're looking for help,
Yes.
whether it be monetarily or what have you.
Yep.
So
with the holidays, one of our key efforts is the Holiday Wish program, which we partner with Town Square Media on. Our 2 radio stations Fund 107 and WBSM, where families are identified to be they tell their story basically, and we're helping facilitate that. And then callers are calling in and generously contributing to support whatever the need or needs are of a family or an individual whose story is being shared. So that will kick off in December, and we know that people that are watching listen to that and contribute, and we thank them for that support. We have done the toy drive with the New Bedford Firefighters Union.
Right, you've done that for a while.
Gosh, I want to say we're getting close to 30 years now.
Is it really?
It's well over 20,
Yeah.
so we're like between 20 and 30 years. And the firefighters do an amazing job partnering with us to get those bins out to lots of different businesses and different places that are collecting the toys. And then we're working on the inside with the organizations who are telling us, we anticipate X amount of boys, girls, these are their ages, or these might be their wish list, and then we do our best to match it all up.
I was going to say, there's got to be a sort of an
A
attack
method
plan.
to the madness.
An
There
attack
is.
plan, because, I mean, people are donating and out of the goodness of their heart, but you want it to be something that the other end wants.
And we do our best, but it's hard. And I
Right.
will tell you that a struggle that I have known about for the almost 30 years that we've been doing this is when people contribute to a toy drive, it's so easy. You pick up a Barbie doll, you pick up the Legos, you pick up the Tonka truck or the Fisher-Price toy or whatever. And so we do well with those things. Where we struggle is for the kids that maybe are 10 and up, right?
Teenagers.
That tween teen,
Yeah.
it's very difficult. What do you give a 14-year-old boy, right? Maybe we get them a basketball, maybe we give them a soccer, but then it's like you don't want to give the basketball to the kid that hates basketball and loves soccer, right?
Right.
And kids today tend to want to listen to music, play a video game. So always being mindful of those older kids, it's tough to meet the need.
They don't want clothes.
They don't want clothes. Girls might want to make jewelry, or they want bath and body type products, or things like, makeup or
Right.
whatever. So filling the void of the tween teen is always a piece that we have to navigate. So when people say, how can we really help? I always say, think about that tween teen, boy, girl. Pretend you're shopping for a 14-year-old boy, a 16-year-old girl.
Right.
And if you have them in mind, you're going to get some things that are really needed and that we struggle to really collect.
Right.
So the firefighters are also pretty successful in usually doing a collection. So sometimes when the dollars are raised, if they're raised, then we're doing targeted purchases to meet those needs. But that's always something I like to highlight because, hey, I know, my son, he's 11, so he's beyond the Tonka truck and the Fisher-Price, but it is fun to shop in those aisles.
It is. No, it is. But
and holidays are getting harder and harder.
well, they
personally.
get more.
So
One thing I've noticed is they get more expensive because
this is true, right?
the items now are
That's right. They're the bigger ticket items.
exactly.
Yeah.
We got like 5 minutes left.
Okay.
I know you want to talk about a new
So
program, I guess, that you've got starting.
two things. So I think one of the things to be mindful of is United Way is that while we help people in need and we're always looking to support both sides, making sure that people get what they need and people who want to help, we want to figure out ways that we can partner with them to make sure that we can accomplish those goals together. But United Way is also just a resource to anyone and everyone.
Right.
So our volunteer website, volunteersouthcoast.org, anybody that's looking to volunteer, maybe has a service requirement through church or school or a club, it's a free tool. It's free for the nonprofits and it's free for the user to search by their interest, by their zip code. And if you can't find something on volunteersouthcoast.org, you can always call our office and we
Which
will
would be just about impossible.
this is true, and we will do our best to find you something. The other tool that is something that is free and new and really exciting, we launched this in April, and it's called Bright by Text. And Bright by Text is a text messaging platform that is targeting parents and caregivers of children prenatal to 8 years old. So those early years, which we know are super important, and probably the most important. And it gives free activities, events, and resources via text message. So when a parent or caregiver signs up, they are not asked for personal information, but they're asked obviously for their phone number so that the text messaging works. They're asked for their zip code, and they're asked for their child or children's birth date. so that the messages that they're getting are very targeted and specific to their children's age and the milestones that maybe that they should be hitting, or the tips and tools of how to engage with a 2-year-old, or it's free story time at the library on this day, they're having a special event. We are working with the libraries, we're working with our nonprofit partners to make sure that the events that they are offering that are free or low cost, that they're using this as a tool to promote to those families.
I would imagine there was a lot, actually.
The agencies love it because it's a great way to get to their direct audience.
Right.
And then there's built-in content. So the content comes from national providers, national experts, PBS, the Pediatric Dental Association, all kinds of well-respected, research-based tips, tools. And let's face it, I know your kids are older now, but those first few years are overwhelming. We're always looking at our phones these days, so if you can get a tip about how to engage with your child, or about a free activity that you can go to on Saturday morning, I know I wish I had had something like
exactly.
this. We don't have lots of mommies groups and things like that around here, so it's a free tool, and hopefully you can put the number on the screen, because all people need to do is text to a phone number, 27448, and they need to text the word GREAT. And then that will prompt the sign up.
The sign up.
But we're trying to just spread the word because it's for anybody.
Right.
Anybody that has
Kids,
is expecting
grandkids,
or has a child up to 8 years old. It's a great tool.
We've got about a minute left.
Yeah.
I want to give you a chance for people who have questions and need information, how can they get in touch with you folks?
So always start with our website, and it's pretty. I hope we just launched a new one, so hopefully it's even easier to navigate, where it's clear that if you're looking for support and help, you can find it. If you are looking to support or help, you can find it.
Right.
And I would always encourage people to use the website first, and then if they can't find what they need, or they have questions or further clarification, to always call the office. But if they're looking for information specific to a health and human service organization, 211 is a free phone number that we and other
you've had that for a while
United
now.
Ways across the state, we make that possible by funding that, and that's also just a great place to start.
Last thing for you before you go.
Yes.
2021,
Yes.
tough year. Optimistic about what's coming up? I mean, it seems things are getting better.
I always say I am not a pessimist, and I am not necessarily an optimist. I'm a realist. I think right now we just have to be very adaptable and take things in stride. But I think things are looking good. I'm not sure if everything that we were able to do last year is replicable from the increased support that we were given. But I also think that the need, while it's high, I don't think it's quite at the level of what it was at the height of the pandemic.
Well,
because the fear was mixed into, and there was just so much uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's more, you have more of an understanding, I guess.
Yes, and there's some sort of normalcy to this, which I know isn't always still normal. But so I'm trying to be optimistic, but I'm realistic.
Well, I mean, and things change on the dime for you folks too.
They do.
It's great seeing you as always.
Thanks, you too, Jeff.
All right, that's
Thank
going to
you.
do it for this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and we will chat with you soon. Thanks for watching.